Welcome, everyone. This is Ben Kaiholt speaking. I'm coming to you today from Northern California. Typically, I am based in Arizona, and I've worked with the Trilogy team, basically my entire career, about 20 years. And I've spent time had the opportunity to visit and spend time at every Trilogy community we've had, and all the ones that are coming in the future. So at least the ones we know of right now, which has been a really fun journey for me. And I've just been really blessed to have the chance to kind of help introduce those who are evaluating whether Trilogy feels right to them, help them on that journey. And I'm joined today by Steve Berry, who Steve's also, we don't have a lot of short timers around here. Steve's another veteran of the group. And I really think, Steve, I'm so excited that we're together, particularly because you've just been such an amazing guide. And maybe I'd love to, as we get started here, do you mind sharing about your journey a little bit, and then we'll introduce and kind of get deeper into some of our content.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. Thanks so much. My name's Steve. You got that already. People pretty much just call me Steve. And I've been with Shea Homes and Trilogy specifically for just about 15 years. And I've been in new home sales and it's specifically active in the lifestyle communities and amenitized communities for probably close to 25 years. And prior to that, I worked in the resort hospitality and high-end golf clubs and private clubs, things like that. So I think the resort sort of living and lifestyle is a little bit in my blood. I've just been here for a long time, and like you, I'm extremely, passionate about what we have the opportunity to do and to provide to folks every day. I get really excited. I'm currently out on the Central Coast of California. We saw in the video there, someone was talking about the community Monarch Dunes, where I worked for a long time. I was also at our club in La Quinta, California. And during my time, I've had sort of the unique position, to work in sort of multiple facets, including community representative for a long time. And I think, relative to our topic that we're going to be discussing today, that makes me somewhat uniquely qualified, because I've literally engaged with thousands of guests in sort of helping them make the decision to choose Trilogy. So, and learned a lot about what that journey is like. So, and it's just something that I really enjoy. So,
yeah, I think it's, it's fun. Like, you're fair warning to everyone who's watching. I mean, you're on with a couple true believers. I think we really care about what we're trying to do. And I think we believe that these, if the communities are a fit, which for a lot of folks they are, they really do deliver a pretty magical experience. So anyway, so we're going to spend a little time, and why folks are joining us today is we've been working over the course of time to develop some tools to basically, almost what Ed and Sandra were talking about in the film is, they had a list, right? They had this idea of what was important to them and how they were prioritizing, the next chapter of their lives. And so, inspired by them and many others like them, over the course of the past few years, we've been developing and working on a set of tools to help people do that evaluation themselves. And that's the product of that is the Live Happier Guide, which we're going to talk about a bit today. And Steve's been a real architect of that, so excited to have him on. So, to kind of just lay out our journey for the next 25 minutes or so. We've already talked a bit about us, which we appreciate you providing us the opportunity to share. We'll learn a bit about you in a second, which I think is always fun. We'll introduce this Live Happier Guide, which we do think is a tool that a lot of people have found to be really helpful. And then to talk about, hey, what are the next steps? As Steve and I often say, our goal here and our pitch is not to buy, our pitch is to learn. We hope that everybody, uses this as an opportunity to get more knowledgeable about the choices they're making and ultimately decide what's best for your individual journey. So with that, Steve, if I may, and we're going to test the technical boundaries of our skill set.
Yeah, I think we got a great opportunity here. We're going to start off with a survey, Zoom, I guess it's a survey, I forget what the terminology is, questionnaire, but we've been engaging with folks over the last couple of webinars, and I think we've got some great questions. We're going to start off with a little bit of a practice question for fun so that we can instruct everyone, if you haven't participated in one of these before, how to do that. And then we've got some good questions for you that hopefully will sort of fertilize our brains a little bit to get us kind of in the right lane about thinking maybe a little bit about some of the things that might be up in your brains about how you're contemplating, your next steps and your decisions when choosing a community.
Okay, well, I think a lot of people are saying I was told there'd be no work, but there is work.
Sorry, a little bit. It's pretty easy.
We're all, but it's not hard. That's right. So let's play this out. And by the way, we are joined not visually, but behind the scenes by Cassidy and Chelsea, two other team members from Trilogy, and they're going to help us orchestrate this as well. So thank you, Cassidy and Chelsea. This is a great one. I love this. There's no wrong answers as long as you don't say cat. So are you a dog person or a cat person? And I believe, oh, look at this. Okay, it pops up on the screen. I'm going to scroll over. I don't think it lets me. Oh, I don't get to vote. Oh, I'm clicking the heck out of dog, but it's not letting me do that. So please, folks, if you're on, if you take the time to scroll over and let us know if you are a dog person or a cat person. I think both are represented on this, on the host side.
Hopefully we've got some incoming, or we could have some technical challenges.
Yeah. How we doing there, Cass?
We are good.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and end it.
See how we did. Look at this.
Wow.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh. Hey, I do
people.
not want cat people to feel excluded. It's a big tent. Okay. So we have many, many, many cat people represented within Trilogy. We have many dog people as well. So, but a 90-10 run, that is, I don't know if I've ever seen a land. This is like Reagan Mondale. This is Nixon McGovern. This is a crazy sweep here. So, all right, well, that's fun. So it looks like people figured this out. So Steve, I think we're going to get a little deeper on this one. This next one. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we are.
Thank you, everybody. So I'm gonna click forward, and Steve, maybe you can introduce. Oh.
All right, the next question coming up.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, which of the following best describes your time frame for making your next move? And we're going to display some choices here. Choice number 1, as soon as possible. Can I have my keys now? 2, within the next few months, within the next year, or I'm early in the planning process.
I bet you we have. I don't know I don't know if I should guess, Steve. I mean, I think that my hunch is they'll all be represented, and regardless where you are in the journey, this is an important kind of way to think about things, right? Like, hey, when is the right kind of next step for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to see the results. As I mentioned before, my experience and the experience of our community teams, I know folks are engaging with us every day that are somewhere sort of on this continuum. All right, we got our results coming in. So as soon as possible, we got about 16% within the next few months, making up 18% within the next year, 34%, and then early in the planning process, about 32%. So pretty good spread.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, I was doing some discussions the other day actually with another set of members, and they were describing their journey. They had lived in the communities for about 5 years. They're at Trilogy at Birdie River, and she kind of described it as, when's the right. When I asked her, when did you know it was the right time for you to make the choice to move? And she said, well, it's kind of like, getting married, having a kid. Like, there's no perfect time. It just felt right, and we wanted to do it, and we moved forward. So I think that's something each person evaluates and kind of figures out in their own mind, right? So
Yeah, and
let's,
it's something that can change, kind of rapidly based on certain life events that come about. And I would always advise, and we'll talk about it more later, but the planning process is just important to get started early, I think generally.
let's do this. Let's get one more. Okay, so there's a little technical glitch. Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Okay, what best describes the stage of discovery process you're in? Let's see, item 1 or answer number 1. I'm doing my research and exploring different possibilities. Option 2, I'm pretty confident in what I want, but I'm still figuring out where. Option 3, I'm pretty far along and just checking off a few more things I want to understand. And option 4 is I know what I want and where I want, and now I'm just making it happen. Just going to turn my phone off because, of course, start a webinar and blows up. Yeah, these are really interesting.
I agree with. Yeah, I like this one. And I think it's an interesting way to kind of think about where you are, like even like a self check, right? Like, oh, okay, what have I figured out the where yet? Am I kind of more into the what? Okay. Oh, look at this.
Okay.
And I'm going to scroll over these to help maybe Steve, because I think that shows the entirety of the answers. So here we go.
Yeah, so I'm doing my research and exploring the different possibilities at 21%. I'm pretty confident in what I want, but still figuring it out, 47%. And then this is the one that's lagging far behind. I'm pretty far along and just checking off a few more things at 9%. And then 23%, I know what I want and where I want. I'm just waiting I'm just going to finalize it. So that's interesting. I guess that could be somewhat indicative of our current market where we've been, really challenged to get enough stuff out there to give everyone an opportunity to buy and to meet the demand. But a really significant chunk at kind of that first sort of third of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's, and we'll talk about this in a second too, where, it's interesting because I think a lot of folks spend much of their lives mostly focused on the where, right? I need to live near my job. I need to live near my school. I need to live near my, whatever that kind of thing is. And then, it kind of changes at this chapter where it's now, okay, well, like what kind of community do I want to live in? Almost becomes, and it looks in the case of this, a lot of folks are looking at it, as that as a primary driver and then figuring out where to make that happen. So it's an kind of change in life.
Yeah, the geography opens up and gets pretty wide, but then the tethers are, and by tether, I say sometimes we have some family there that we might live close to. And so we're kind of going through sort of making those decisions on, if they want to move far away or stay close. It definitely changes. It's a different dynamic.
Okay, I'm going to go to, there we go.
One of the things that I'm learning about with these questions, Ben, is I may need to get my prescription updated.
Well, you're among friends there. I'm not wearing glasses, but I probably should be. I lean into the screen every time I have to read something. So I have a feeling probably if we had that, are you a person who wears reading glasses? We probably get a 80-10 split.
Yeah, and I've been at Trilogy so long, I've actually I'm going to be age, qualified here soon. Okay, this one's great. Good question here. What most excites you about making a move? Option number 1, friends, and more new friends. Option 2, I'm really looking forward to selecting and designing a home just the way that I want it. Option 3, I want to live in an area with more of the activities I love. And option 4, I think it would be fun to have resort amenities and built-in activities right inside my community. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm sort of suspicious that maybe this could be a more than a single choice. We will have, I think, one question, if we haven't already has, that we will be able to select more than one. This is select only one
Yeah.
that ranks the highest.
I think the exit
It's-
poll, if we did an exit poll of existing residents, I think a lot of them would probably choose, potentially choose friends, and more new friends. There is a lot of that. That seems to be a lot of the talk, but I think, I bet you it would be balanced across these. Actually, they enjoyed the kind of home design process. They, want to be somewhere they love. So I think, again, there's probably a lot of these represented, both in our guests today as well as to those who have chosen to move in already. Oh, look at this.
Interesting.
Really interesting. Okay, so I'll take some weight off your eyes here. So friends, and more new friends. I kind of joked that I thought it might lead in the exit poll, but on the entry poll, it looks like it's less of a priority right now. I'm looking forward to selecting and designing a home that's just what I want.
I would have really thought that would be, a stand-away leader.
Yeah, I think that's funny, because I that would have been my perception too. Like, folks coming in for their tours often are very, very excited to kind of, like, I think, get underway with that, right? Is that why you say that, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's for so many, it's this opportunity to really, get exactly what and where I want it.
And then I want to live in an area with more of the activities I love. That's 14%. And then this is good. I mean, I didn't explain really my role, but my role with the group is to oversee our resort amenities and to help bring the communities to life through activities and events and programming. So I'm excited to see that many people see that as important. I think it'll be fun to have resort amenities and built-in activities right inside my community. Nearly 7 out of 10. So
yeah, and that's great to see. I think, in particular, because of the way that the answer is kind of framed out there, and how important it is to not just have the amenities, but to actually sort of power those amenities, and make sure that we get the right sort of animation and engagement around them.
And I think we have
so intrinsic to what we do.
I think we have one more question, and then we will move forward. So, and that is, which of these statements, this was your multiple answer option, which statements reflect how you are feeling?
Another good one.
Yes, it's good. There's a lot of words. I'm going to, again, not strain your prescription. So
okay.
I'm excited about the idea of moving, but the reality of moving is a little intimidating, which is fair. Sometimes I get confused by all the jargon and industry terms, so narrowing my search has been hard. Yes, we probably contributed to that, so apologies. I think I know what I want, but there are so many choices out there that I want to make sure I choose right. We are considering a move that would take us away from our family and friends, and I'm nervous about not being able to see them as much. I'm looking to move someplace with better weather, but not sure where yet. I got no worries at all. I'm just hoping to learn a little more. So let's give them a little time. And then, Steve, we're going to need to be a little more disciplined. So I'm going to make sure we keep moving. And Cassidy, I'm thinking you may have been telling me to be a little louder, so I will do that if I'm not being sufficiently loud. Sorry about that. That has never been feedback to me before.
I can hear you pretty good. I got these goofy headphones on. The space I'm in, I'm up in Washington now at our Tahale community, and I borrowed someone's space here, but it's in one of the model homes. It's a little echoey, so I should have introduced myself as DJ Steve.
All right, we're ready. All right, this is great. Okay, so I'm excited about the idea of moving. It has quite a bit of support, but the reality that is fair. Anyone who has moved knows that is, the pizza boxes and cold beers you are offered to help never quite match the work required. So, so we understand that. I'm very pleased to see that we have not contributed to the industry jargon confusion issue, because that is a thing, and I'm glad that that's not reflected here. I think I know what I want. But there's so many choices. That's fair. Look, there's a lot of, you're kind of evaluating a home at the same time as a community, at the same time as an area, as a region. So there are a lot of considerations there. This idea of, kind of the tethers that Steve referred to earlier, that's represented in about 15% of folks view that, hey, this is kind of changing my current social environment. The next, I'm looking to move someplace with better weather, but not sure where. That's a lot of our communities. We've gotten, I think, a little more diverse in the Mid-Atlantic, and you're in the Pacific Northwest now. But a lot of our communities are in the kind of Sun Belt region. And then I got no worries at all. Just hoping to learn a little more. That's it for you. So I'm glad. I'm pleased to hear people are worry-free and hoping to learn. It's a good spot to be. All right. So Steve-O, let's jump in here. And I think those questions are largely the framework of this tool we've created, right? It's this idea of, I think, some versions of the questions we just asked are, I think, probably foundational questions that people might be asking themselves kind of along the way, right? I mean, there is a certain rhythm to the way folks tend to evaluate these kind of life choices and life changes. And so I think it's a great kind of introduction into our Live Happier guide, which is a tool to help folks evaluate this. And so over the next few minutes, and I'm going to give a lot of room to you here, Steve, to talk through this, we'll talk about kind of the origin story of how this came to be. We'll go through a few of the components of the guide, talk through why it's helpful, and then kind of what you can do next. And Steve, when it makes sense, I don't want to be unsettling. I'll toggle. We have a few of the pages of the guide in here. So if you're speaking to a point that I think is represented in there, for those who are everyone's seeing the screen, I'll toggle to that. But Steve, I want to give you a lot of room here because this is really something that you're really articulate about.
Well, I can try to be. It's really interesting, even just thinking about that last question there and some of the answers that we saw in there. I think the one on the bottom was like, hey, I'm kind of good where I'm at, so I'm trying to learn more. And I think that's, a lot of folks are out there sort of exploring and maybe just getting started, or they're just starting to think about it. So I think that's something that really resonates with me, because I tend to think, one of the things we hear most about from our members when people actually move is that, hey, if I had known what was here and what life would actually be like, I would have done it sooner. And so the reason that it resonates so much with me is I would see a lot of people all the time coming through, and we still have them to this day, where they're really just looking exploratory. They're really at the beginning and they're just trying to check it out. And so we're really always tasked with saying, well, how can we really help them understand what it's really like here and what some of the benefits of opportunities, because it might actually help them dig in and sort of move down that path a little quicker versus miss out. And I know that it seems a little backwards, because if you're happy where you're at, sometimes you just stay there. But sometimes there's little things that you may not be super happy with, but you really haven't found or identified a reason that would motivate you enough to move. And then I think there was another one there of just trying to weed through all the choices. It's kind of in a similar lane, right? Now you've got out there, maybe you're more excited, but now you're kind of caught in this whirlwind, and still that could put you in kind of a holding pattern, not moving forward, as quickly as you might if you knew what was on the other side. And so that was really, I guess, in total, the catalyst for the guide, because we hear all that feedback, our members sharing, hey, I would have done this sooner if I really understood more about what life would be like here. And at the same time, we have literally thousands and thousands of shoppers. Now, when I say members, I mean member residents is how we refer to members of our community. Members are member residents or homeowners. So we get all that feedback from folks. And then we also know all the shoppers coming through. They're just trying to understand all the details. And then as you get in, really getting to sort of deeper questions and then wading through timing and logistics and the sort of how do I do it all at the same time is really sort of exploring a little bit of uncharted territory, because it's a whole different phase that they're moving into. So you really don't know what you don't know. And I think the opportunity for us in thinking about the guide was this incredible opportunity to leverage what it is that we hear and we understand. So like you heard me say, Ben, personally, I've walked thousands of people through our clubs, some of who are making the decision to jump in right away, others who maybe, were trying to figure it out. So sometimes I would meet and see people, and I might spend 6 months or even a year before they buy or make a decision to move, and sort of get that feedback. But as an organization, it's literally tens of thousands of folks. So we really thought, gosh, what can we learn from our frontline team members about, all of the sort of second level questions that might be in folks' minds about, how they're making the decision to move or not move or do anything. And that's really why we, created the guide. And I think where our expertise lies in sort of that.
Yeah, I think there's kind of, and I'll pull up, and I have some slides. We won't go through each of these, Steve, in detail, but I think it's a nice framework to show up. And I think, there's two things I would pull away from what you said, Steve, which is one is, it's the next time I hear, I wish I would have waited longer, will be the first. But you also hear that, hey, look, these are really important decisions, and you want to be purposeful, and you want to be thoughtful, and you want to be appropriately respectful of your own journey, right? And make sure that, all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and, you don't want to be, and you kind of toggle, a lot of folks, kind of toggle between this idea of, everything they want, and then, not being stubborn, and, just all those kind of internal things that we all have, right? And we've all, probably most likely everybody on this call has purchased a home at some point in their life, right? This is not the, and before you write that offer, before you choose to make the move, there are all these things that are going on. And I think what I'm really pleased with how the guide itself sets up is it respects each of those decisions, and I think treats them with reverence, but also creates a great framework to allow for kind of the right balance, right? Hey, look, this is a priority. Is it a priority that should make me stop, start, etc.? So, and I think, interestingly, and I'm going to go through these kind of, sections of the guide, which is, you start with you, right? What do you care about? What's important to you? Then you go through exactly kind of what you were describing, which is, what is your version of happiness, right? Like, what is going to drive this incredibly valuable resource that just gets more and more valuable to you as you age, which is time, right? How do you want to spend your days? Where do you want to do it? Kind of as a logical transition. So I know kind of, I'm kind of thinking about me, then I'm, thinking about what I want, and then I might be thinking about where I want it, right? And pick me up here, Steve.
But there's also, I mean, you're the whole first chapter, and I think, that exploration of self is really critically important, and because so many of our buyers, they're on this journey, they're going through a transition where normally the kids have grown up and they've moved out, but you're incredibly used to really thinking of them first. So everything is sort of organized around your kids, around a job. A lot of times it might be organized around where you've been for a long time. And so it's really hard for some, not for all, some folks are really good at just shifting gears and be like, okay, it's about us. Now we're going to totally move into a different framework of how we're thinking about what it is that we want when we're at the center of that. Right. And so that can create one of those tethers, like you heard me mention, but it really is important to really think, to move back to sort of the you-centric sort of thinking and exploration.
Yeah, I mean, look, we there's a bunch of ways to discuss this, but ultimately, like, there is a real shift in most people's minds around what their priorities are, right? Like, in a number of cases, and it depends whether you have kids, not have kids, married, unmarried, et cetera. But like, often you're spending, a lot of the middle part of your life focused on the needs of others. You're focused on the needs of your boss. You're focused on the needs of the company you own. You're focused on the customers you serve. You're focused on your family. You're focused on kind of serving others. And then you hit this spot where you kind of start to reflect back in, and it's not selfish. It's I think more kind of self-reflective, right? It's this chance to kind of understand what your own journey is. And the phrasing we use in the guide is just kind of discovering your why, right? What is most important to you? What is it going to take to get to have the things that are most important to you? And for a lot of people, that is, the kind of a social network, that is, an opportunity to discover new things. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to explore. But people have to kind of figure that out, right? And that's a really important thought process.
One other component that I would share there is there's a little bit of a smokescreen that goes on too, because most of the buyers that are coming to us, they have owned multiple homes. And so that's why I was so interested on that one slide, because a lot of times they'll be really product focused. So when they start thinking, we'll start with some of those things that we know, like you're looking at the geography, but it's pretty one-dimensional. And then you maybe start thinking about like, hey, is this type of community, an amenitized community or resort community, something I'd be interested in, but still pretty one-dimensional. But then you get really focused on product, the what, right? Looking at plans and looking at all those things. And we get so focused on that, there's this other sort of exploration that's not really, that could be overlooked. And I think it sort of represents, at the end of the day, some of the deepest, darkest fears, which is about making a mistake. And potentially for those people that are on that list, are like, hey, I'm good where I'm at. Like if where you're at is pretty sweet and you don't need to move, you're definitely not trying to go and do a bunch of heavy lifting and move to someplace that doesn't work out or doesn't actually make you happier or feel better, right? Or live a more robust or full life.
Steve, you hosted so many people that you basically, like, your own language is the segue of the guide. I mean, you just kind of articulated in your kind of storytelling fashion, I mean, exactly what the journey the guide takes you on. And I'm going to toggle backwards here, but it starts with kind of understanding you. It goes into kind of your why and where you'd like to be. It talks about the things that are functionally important to you as far as the where, and allows you to kind of map that out. It allows you to explore the kinds of communities that might be able to deliver some of the things you're looking at. As we've said, Trilogy is a big tent, and there are age qualified communities, there are non-age qualified communities, there's communities that have neighborhoods within them that are age qualified and not age qualified, there's different types of amenities and locales. So all these things are part of that evaluation. And then you kind of go into this next layer even, which is, you think about, what a lot of people ascribe value to at this point in life: wellness, connection, freedom, exploration. What's kind of on that list, right? And what's important to me there. And there's a world of this, we run out of room on the page, but this is one of the pages that I could see 50 blanks below each of these columns, right? Like, because there's so many ways that people, beyond yoga and sports and hiking and learning to golf or whatever they are. And well, I mean, there's just a lot of things that people can be thinking about. And I think the guide helps, right? Create some framing there, and kind of helps with the journey.
Absolutely. What it is it's really like a deeper cut on each of the different components. And when you hear me talking about, like, it's not that the product and the plan and those things aren't important, or pricing or the geographic, they're important, but it's really important to sort of make sure that you've explored it at that second or third cut, a deeper level that I think is really key. And that's what the guide is really helpful, in doing, and just moving beyond the surface sort of level.
Again, the king of the segue. I mean, it is, because there's also a financial component that people want to think about. And it's really helpful for people to have some context for that, because there is a part that's about what you want and where you want to be and who you want to be, but there's also that balance between the financial requirements of doing that. So the guide touches on that as well and gives you kind of an explanation of how the communities usually work, some other things to be thinking about along the way. So I think there's a really good balance between the kind of for like kind of the lighter side of this, the more human side, as well as the kind of practical side too, right?
Well, yeah, and one comment when you talk about practicality, one comment that I have when you see there's all the logistics, like a lot of folks are coming with like a home to sell or something to do, or maybe they're downsizing. So that's a whole like, how do I do that, right? What does it take to build one? But typically what happens, and we saw this once again going back to the questions, where people typically sort of they start the journey going a little bit backwards. So they might arrive really early in the journey looking to understand a lot of the how do I, versus early on start the like should I, and what's the value here. And by that, I mean, and we have so many of these opportunities to come out, like there's this guide, obviously, which I'm going to highly recommend that, that people engage with and do that. But visit the communities, some communities we have discovery stays, or just come out, spend time there, connect with, we have member ambassadors so you can meet people that are there, and just don't do it backwards. Because sometimes I think, once again, like the smoke screen, we get really fixated on the how-tos, before we should be dealing with the should-Is and sort of that deeper exploration.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It does. And by the way, I mean, I think some folks have noticed that some of these pages have numbers on them. We've pulled out 8 or 10 pages from what I believe is, it's like a 45, 50 pages.
The guide's pretty robust. Yeah.
I mean, we're giving a bit of a snapshot here, and there's more tools that we're sharing, and
I'm sure people are also like, you're rotating away. We've got a special opportunity for the folks that are here. We'll get to at the end. So don't feel like you're missing something.
Yeah, and so then, and I think we'll close and kind of turn it, because I want to be respectful of people's time, Steve, and I think. I mean, we are obviously incredibly compelling, but even even a Snickers bar starts to taste sweet after too many. So let's a few more components, which again, the guide I think covers a lot of the very functional things, which is just a flat out description of which communities are available, what they have, et cetera, where they are. I do like this. I should have mentioned this kind of like a heat map, which shows both where the communities are and then where people are coming from, which is interesting, right? And then the kind of full list, and you can see all the locations where Trilogy communities exist. So why don't we go back, Steve, because I think it is probably appropriate. We've explained to folks kind of kind of what the guide does, maybe some things that they could pull from it. But I think it would be important in our closing to kind of provide them a sense of next steps, what they can do, how they might want to do it. And, let's kind of close the circle here if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to share it with everybody that's here today. We're going to email those out so you can actually get to this and download it on the website. But to make it super easy for everybody that's participating on the webinar today, we're going to email you directly the Live Happier guide. I strongly encourage that you jump into it. We worked incredibly hard on it. And as I said before, we've leveraged a lot of what we have learned. I mean, we've been at this since 1999. I mean, literally tens of thousands of folks that are coming through our doors, and exploring in this way. And we engaged with our frontline team members to come up with all the most, what we believe are the most valuable items, and sort of get to that deeper cut. So we're going to share that with you. Schedule a visit. I know I like to shop and go and like kind of lurk different things and research from the web, but there's no substitute from going out and visiting. It doesn't, if there's something near you, even if you're thinking geographically, it's a different spot, I would say visit a community. There's discovery stays that you can participate, where you can sort of spend a day in the life. If you just have time for, we have those at some communities, not all, but you can find those on the web. And then you can also show it up, show up at a community, book an appointment, come on out. And I strongly encourage you to do that. And particularly even if you're, hey, we're good with what we have, but this is floating around in your brain, explore it more, start that sooner than later.
I'm going to give you a chance to do some closing thoughts here in a second, Steve, because I think that's important. I want to go to a little bit of Q&A because we have been getting some questions in, so I'm going to field a couple of those if I can.
Okay, cool.
We got one question that said, these communities seem mostly geared to couples. Would they be amenable to singles as well? Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's, first of all, I appreciate the question. Thank you for asking it. I'm not sure if that's actually how it plays out. I mean, I understand, and sometimes we use I and we language through here, but a majority of the communities have a very large contingent of both couples and non-couples. I mean, I don't know what the exact data is, but I bet you it's probably certainly north of 20% of folks are most likely single within the community, whether they are widower, whether they are recently divorced, or if they're just single and free burden it. So that is represented. I think that in addition to just like flat out singles clubs that exist within the communities, I would say that majority of the events are pretty agnostic to whether you're a couple or not. I mean, it's a big tent.
Absolutely. I agree so much, Ben. And I think one of the big concerns that sort of looms out there is like, hey, is there not like things for singles to do? Maybe that's like one question, but will I fit in, and can I be a part of the group even though I don't, I'm single or whatever. And I think we have so much feedback from singles. And once again, I would just say visit the communities and kind of dive in, and you can really get a feel for that. But
agree with that. We have a question. Why has Trilogy not built in Colorado? Also, I do not see a community in the Prescott area. Is there a reason for this? First of all, I love both Colorado and Prescott. Yeah, sometimes look, it's there's no strategic reason. There is a beautiful community that's amenitized in Colorado from Shea Homes called the Canyons. And I would encourage you to take a look at that. It is not Trilogy, but it is a beautiful community underway just south of Denver. And most of the time, there are kind of strategic markets that Trilogy is looking at, Southwest, Pacific Northwest, et cetera. And then, just it's land, right? Sometimes you can get a hold of it and sometimes you can't, right? So,
this question coming from Cassidy.
What's it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Cassidy would also like one in Colorado since that's where she's based. We have another one. Are there plans to build in Northern Nevada? Because these guys are after my heart. I grew up in Carson City, and I love Northern Nevada. I think it is beautiful. Jill asked that question, and I will say, Jill, Trilogy is perpetually flirting. Whether any of that will lead, I do not know. There are no specific plans to build in Northern Nevada, but there are also not plans to not build in Northern Nevada. So
we love those areas.
That's right.
And you're right. We're always, looking and hunting and see where we can, expand that and bring something to market.
And then there was a question just on kind of price points of homes and communities. So really each one of those is very market driven. So I would encourage you, there is that information available on the website. I don't want to kind of recite here kind of what costs what, where. That information is available. We don't hide it. So if you go into sheahomes.com/trilogy and peruse the communities, you will get a sense of the different floor plans and homes available, as well as kind of the price points that those are available at. And it's pretty wide, because it's also market to market.
Yeah, one of the other things that I would mention there too, Ben, is it's incredibly easy to connect through the 800 number. And if you can't come out in person, you can actually do virtual appointments with team members that are on site that have a lot of the detail of what's available and what costs and things are and different values.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you said that, because the team that's available at the 800-685-6494, they're really incredibly knowledgeable. I mean, it's there's not very many of them. They've been doing it for a long time. They've talked to thousands of people. So they're really helpful guides. So I hope people do reach out and make those calls and ask questions, because they have a great kind of sense of the network as a whole, right?
Yep.
Which is important.
Yep. And
All
they
right,
can connect you really quick with the right people at the community.
I'm going to give you a chance for some closing thoughts, then I'll jump in and we will hit our time mark. Look at us. So
Hey, I think I've made them. Like Ben shared at the beginning, I'm kind of raving, lunatic fan, and I just love Trilogy. It is genuinely because I've seen for folks where it is they can explore and it is the right fit for them, the impact that it's made on their lives. And conversely, I've seen a lot of other folks that maybe haven't made that decision or delayed that decision, and are still where they're at. Or some other circumstance. So I just strongly encourage you, get out there and explore it. It really does help you figure that out. And we did see that there's a lot of choices out there. So the sooner that you can do that, you use these tools, dive into the tools, and it really helps you kind of figure it out, make a sort of decision in one way or the other, because time is important. We don't know how much we have.
we don't, and it's more and more valuable every day. So I would encourage, and I'll close pretty easily here. There are some questions still coming in, so anybody who's asking a question, I'll stay on a little bit and make sure those get answered for you. But as a general comment, look, time is incredibly important. Life choices are incredibly important. Where you choose to live is a real it's a real touchstone on how a lot of things happen in your life. And I would encourage everyone to explore, and ultimately, if it feels right to you, to let that feeling guide you. There's no reason that if you feel like it's the right choice that you shouldn't make it, would be my experience. The juice is worth the squeeze, whatever you want to say. I think it's proven over and over again that for those for whom this is a fit, it really feels great once you make the choice. So, but everyone's journey is unique, and I would encourage you to follow your path. And if it leads you to us, we're looking forward to having you. And with that, I want to thank Chelsea and Cassidy for the preparation work and the work behind the scenes today. I'd like to thank Steve. You've been a tremendous help today, and a tremendous help to probably thousands now of people in finding their homes within Trilogy. And I feel blessed to be able to do this for a living. I really love our work, and I love the chance to speak to people who are considering this. So with that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Cassidy and Chelsea.